I'm Jim Collison and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska, and the office in Singapore, as well as Bangkok, Thailand. This is Gallup's Strengths Spotlight, recorded on August 21st, 2015. Strengths Spotlights are live interviews with that Gallup conducts with individuals, teams, and organizations who are using the Clifton Strengths Finder and its 34 themes to impact their community and organizations around the world. If you have questions, please email them to us, coaching@gallup.com. And don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, that's just gallupstrengthscenter.com, for all your Strengths Finder resources and training needs. You can also catch the video on both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening to all of our Gallup webcasts over at the Coaches blog. That's just coaching.gallup.com. Sarv Atri is our host today. He works as a strengths in Singapore. Sarv, it's great to see you for another Strengths Spotlight, and we're glad that you're here today.
It's my pleasure here to be here today, Jim. Thank you so much for hosting this. And today we have a special edition for our Call to Coach Spotlight, live from Bangkok, Singapore, and the US. And we have a very special guest today on our show, Khun Suwannee. Khun Suwannee is the Managing Director for Southeast Asia for Beiersdorf, the German personal care company, manufacturing personal care products such as Nivea, Eucerin, Elastoplast, Labello, La Prairie, and Tessa. She has been a revolutionary leader for Beiersdorf and has been instrumental in building the business for them in Southeast Asia. Just as introduction, she has had a very successful career over the last 20 plus years, starting with the medical division brands for Beiersdorf, and then took over as a sales director and grew the business for Nivea and Eucerin. Now, over the last 4 years, she has been managing all of their business for the entire Southeast Asia division. Her education has been in pharmacy and then her MBA in finance and marketing from Middle Tennessee State University in the US. Recently, she was sponsored to be part of the Executive Leadership Program at Stanford University by Beiersdorf. Khun Suwannee, welcome to the session today, and we would love to hear from you your strengths journey. You've been a strong advocate of strengths, within the region. We've also captured her as one of the ASEAN in our ASEAN leadership study. She's been a strong leader as well. We captured an interview there. We can learn more about her in that study, but today we'd love to hear from her live. Khun Suwannee, tell us more about your strengths journey, starting maybe with your top 5.
So thank you very much, Saurav, and thank you for having me here in this special event. My top 5 when I made the assessment is, the first one is strategic, the second one is ideation, the third one is activator, the fourth one is competitive, and the fifth one is related. So how do I use my strength in my job? The first one is strategic thinking. I think that would help me to create a very good strategy, like the roadmap. How do I want to build the business along the next 5 years or 10 years? And the second one is the ideation. When you have this roadmap, you want to have this roadmap which is very, very, very innovative. And that's how the ideation come into play in the strategy. You wouldn't like to have a strategy which is very dry. So, and that is very helpful. And the third one is the competitive. Obviously, you want to have a strategy which is a clear roadmap, which is innovation, and also which is have a competitive advantage over the competitors. So with these 3 strengths, will give me a lot of good strategy. The strategy which is create a sustainable competitive advantage over the competitors. After that, then you want to make it happen, because the good strategy without a great execution is powerless, right? So the activator will help me to activate the whole organization, the whole people, the whole team, to make it happen, to implement this strategy, perfect execution, So with this is also make us develop the business over the past 15 years, 20 years, growing a lot, and also making a lot of increased market share over our competitors. and how do I also motivate my whole team? I think one strength that I have is relator. I use my relator to establish a close relationship with my direct report and also some of my key people in the organization, so that I understand their motivation, I understand their strength, I understand their weaknesses, and that's how I use my relator to develop them. First, to understand them first, and then discuss with them to develop them throughout their career, and also motivate the whole team to make it in one team. And also, by using this, you know the strength and weakness of your team. You can also make a great team in terms of let them complement their strengths and each other, so that they make a one team. And that's how I make for the last 15-20 years, make the business very successful and also make a great team.
Beautiful. That was no, it clearly shows how much knowledge you've gained about yourself, and been using this tool quite effectively as well. We'd love to exactly talk about that. You've literally been instrumental in building a strength-based organization. Tell us, how did you introduce this tool to your team members, and how do you use it in your own management style?
Okay. First, when I know about the strengths finders, is through the regional team, and my boss who introduced this to me, and we all have to go through the assessment. But then before I went to the assessment, I got one book which is Strength Finders 2.0, and I read about it, and I feel it like, wow, this is wow. I mean, one thing that I got from the book is that everybody can develop and also can grow their career in their own way by leveraging their strengths. If they know the strengths, they can leverage it from that, and then develop it to make it successful in their own way. You don't have to worry about too much in their weaknesses. However, they have to aware of their weaknesses, but rather to focus more on their strengths. So I think this is very, very positive, it's wonderful, and that's how I also introduced this to the Southeast Asian organization. And everybody make an assessment. We have a workshop together to discuss, so that everybody have a very clear view about everybody's strengths. And there was an aha moment also when we discussed in the workshop that, oh, now I understand why did you behave like that. Beforehand, they did not understand, my colleagues, why they behave like that. So at the end, it's very powerful, it's very positive, because it makes people understand each other. Otherwise, when you collaborate, if you don't understand why they behave like this, because this is their strength like this is also create an unnecessary conflict. So by doing this, I think it create a very strong awareness about everybody's strength, and they also start to understand how do they work with each other and how do they complement each other. And this is also, for me, very useful.
Fantastic. A lot of leaders typically ask us that how should I, communicate the message of StrengthsFinder even before you roll it out to the whole organization, and I saw within your organization, people are absorbing this tool, people are using this tool. Tell us a bit more about what was your communication strategy, your communication style of getting people on board and being able to roll it out right through the organization with over 500 plus people.
I think, first of all, we make people first to do the assessment. Everybody does the assessment, and everybody get the report, and they get to read the report first. And then I think it's very important that they know what are their strengths and why they behave like that themselves, and they got the kind of a light in the tunnel. Oh, now I know this is my strength, and I can develop my strength from what I learned from the report. I think this is the first start to make people, aware of the strength finders. And then we make a workshop, a big workshop together. And I think Gallup also helped a lot in terms of making this a little bit more fun, not too serious. And then you explain the 35 themes in a very fun way, and people also understand it in a very simple way. And that's how they also start to think about, oh, when they flash back, oh, this is my colleagues, and they were holding the top 5, on the like a name tag. So they have this top 5, and they start to see each other, and they flash back that, oh, that's now I know why you behave like that in the past. Now I understand you, and this is also a good way to make them get inspired to really understand and get the awareness of their colleagues' strength, and they will also get trained to be understanding how do they want to work with each other. So I think the strategy is very simple. Let them read the report. You run a workshop, but we don't run a workshop too serious. We make it a little bit more fun, and they also understand it. Make it very simple, and that's what we did, and I think they enjoy it a lot.
Fantastic. And I know that, Barisov is very strong on your values as well. And, tell us a bit more, how are people living their strengths, and how have you been able to connect it to, also help them live their values?
Okay, first of all, our value in Barisov, also from global, also cascading down into the country. The first one is care. The second one is simplicity. The third one is courage, and the fourth one is trust. I think with this 4 core value is very essential for us, how to behave, how to make one team together. I think the strength finder also, as I said already, would create a very good understanding how do they collaborate to each other, and if they understand each other, the care value, it will be very easy, because if they understand each other, then they can create the caring for each other, right? And the second one is the simplicity. That's how they develop the strategy or develop the work, which is not complicated. We have to be more focused, and we have to be more simple and focus on 20 and make 80 rules. So this is also quite helpful. And in terms of trust, obviously, if you do not understand each other, you cannot create trust, right? Because if you are not understand why they behave like that, so everything is about understanding each other to make these 4 core values really, really powerful, and they live the 4 core values.
Beautiful. And we'd even love to hear a story. I'm sure you have a lot of stories to share about different people who you've been managing, and some of them are complex, some of them are easier. Tell us a little bit more. Share a story where you were able to manage a people or a situation more effectively when you focused on the strengths.
I have one example with one of my direct report. Because I have an activator. One of my direct report, he or she has deliberative. Deliberative is someone who are very cautious. Whenever you want to come up with any solution, you have to think a lot, think very, very thoroughly, right? But the activator is like when you got the direction, when you got the good strategy, you want to implement right away. So this is activator and deliberative are very opposite, to each other. So by understanding my direct report, one of them is deliberative, and you read what is their strengths, is really helpful, because beforehand you misunderstand that why he or she are very slow, they don't have a can-do attitude or what. So by understanding this and also by observing their behavior, at the end these people are also very compliment you, because sometimes you are too fast to implement something. These people will tell you, be careful on this and this and this on the way you implement this, and this is also, that's how you have this aha moment. Oh, this is also I misunderstood the person. Not that they don't have the can-do attitude, but it's because they have to take some time and really think it through. What is the solution? But once the solution you got from these people is a very thorough solution, and that's why I said this is really helpful. Otherwise you would have misunderstood the person, or they don't have can-do attitude because I have an activator. So this is one good example that I would like to share, that sometimes without these tools, you might misunderstand people easily by having a very opposite, strengths.
Beautiful. And you've had a lot of experience in managing different cultures. You manage a whole range of regions, whole large regions for Baristaf. Tell us a little more. How have you been using this tool, working with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, different genders, like right across the spectrum?
I think for me, probably this is also have to go through a number of years of experience. You did a lot of mistake. You have a lot of misunderstanding. So for me, one thing that I been learn how to work with a different culture is, don't jump into your too fast conclusion, and don't make your judgment to stereotype. So observe and discuss, and then use my relator to understand the person. And I'm very, very sure after my boss, implement this strength finder within the whole region, it's also very helpful for me to understand my colleague much better. So and that's how I also use my experience and also the tools from Gallup. Very helpful for me to manage. But I'm still have to learn more. I'm not perfect. I always still have something that I have to improve. I'm not saying that I'm 100% very perfect. So something more to learn.
Beautiful. And I know there are a lot of people who look up to you as a somebody who's grown the ranks within the corporate world and has done really well for herself and a successful career. What advice would you give to managers or leaders out there who want to learn a little bit more how to manage human beings, and human beings are quite complex? So what is your advice to them?
My advice, and also this is also my experience, would be that when you meet to work with people, I think trust is the most important thing. So there are people saying, if you are the person who provides trust, you just give the trust at the beginning. But if you are a person have to receive the trust, but trust is something you need to earn. So don't try to ask people to ask them, please give me trust, but you have to earn that trust. But if you are the person who just give the trust, So and that would be make at the beginning, how do you work with each other, very, very easy. And the second one would be that be very honest. If you have any problem and you have any issue, address this problem to the person constructively. And be honest with your feeling. Be honest with what you have with the person, and that is very, very important, because if you don't address it to the people but you address it to others, and that's what jeopardize the trust. As I said, trust is very important. If you are not honest and you don't give trust at the beginning, it's gonna be very, very difficult. So
Great.
that would be my advice. And also the third one with your people, obviously you have to be empower them and also focus on the development uh, and give them a good coach with
So tell us
your
a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about that. You mentioned about development, and you're a strong advocate of developing people. How do you develop people within your organization?
I mean, through my direct report, sometimes in the job, sometimes I also uh, do it by running a workshop, and sometimes I have a one-on-one with my people, and we have this kind of IDP, individual development program. So we listed out also what is the strengths and what is what is the area to improve, and we develop the project, and we have this one-on-one discussion together. And also we speak about on the job what happened, and would they would like to give me some ask me some advice, and I can give them some advice, something like that. You can do it, in a many way, one-on-one, and also sometimes we run a workshop together to discuss about how do they want to run the strategy in their department.
Beautiful. You mentioned about coaching as well. That you work with coaches. You've been coaching them as well yourself. Tell us a little more. What's the value you've seen in having a strengths coach or having coaching done?
I think the coaching is not about telling them what to do. It's more about listen to them. What do they think they have a problem, and then you just give them an advice. But then the advice that I give, they have to make their own decision. How are they gonna do it on their own style? You cannot just give them uh, advice and then you expect them to do exactly what you advise, because I can only give from my experience, but I give them in a very general advice, and they have to crack it on their own, and this is how I coach my people.
Beautiful. And my final question from my side would be, Kun Suwannee, you've built a successful organization for barista across Southeast Asia. Now you've built a legacy. You want to learn about that legacy. What's the legacy that you've built, and also what's the legacy you want to leave behind?
I think because now today I'm on the 18 months development program. If I look back in terms of business in Nivea and Eucerin in Southeast Asia, we have been developed very strong in terms of Nivea become a #1 skincare brand in the Southeast Asia, in Thailand, in Vietnam. It's going to be strong also in Malaysia and Singapore, and also in Myanmar. We have a wonderful position, like we have now 59% market share. So, and with Eucerin in Thailand, we are also having a very dominant position. We have more or less 60% market share, where the second, the third has more or less than 10. So probably Thailand is the only country in rest of world that have this kind of dominant position, because at that time we were very, very aggressive in moving the medical skincare market, very aggressive in terms of the first mover. And that's how we have this wonderful position. And in terms of the team, I'm very proud that the Southeast Asian team in every country, in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Vietnam, in Malaysia, and Singapore, we have a very, very strong team, and they are very, very having a strong fighting spirit. They are very competitive, and also they really know how to compete in the market, and that is also very important. So that's a legacy I think I'm very proud of. And today, if I look back, the team are very, very strong.
Beautiful. And I would have to say, Kun Suwannee, your legacy is very inspiring. It's been truly a privilege of having, to get to know you, get to work with you as well. And Jim, do you have any questions from your side that you'd like to ask Kun Suwannee?
You know, at this point, we always like to ask the question on StrengthsFinder, especially is how do you see it regionally differently than you've had some experience here in the United States? And so, are there unique challenges, you know, in the regions that you work in that may be different than we see them here in the United States?
Uh, when you say United States, you mean the organization in the United States?
So yeah, I mean, so there are you know unique sometimes there's unique cultural differences with StrengthsFinder that may be different in the U.S. versus what we see in Asia. So as you think about, you've had an opportunity to work across both cultures.
Yeah.
Do you see unique opportunities or unique challenges with StrengthsFinder in your current work situation that may be different than the United States?
Wow, it's a very good question. I never work in the US, but I have this 6 weeks in Stanford and also meeting up a lot with the US people. I would say it should be the same.
Yeah.
But the US people, culturally wise, US people have, you know, in culture, US people are very positive in addressing things like, it's amazing, it's wonderful. I think this is what I like about US people because you guys were express, the positive mode much more than the German. I'm working for a German company, so it's a different culture. But that's the only thing I saw differently. But in terms of the strength fighters, I would say, in my view, the same, huh? But
Okay.
probably in the US, they might be able to address this even much more positive than the rest of the world. And that's how I see US people.
No, it's a great answer. There's no right answer. It's one of the questions as we do these international, you know, interviews. I always like to ask that because we have a large U.S. audience, but we forget that the rest of the world needs StrengthsFinder as well. And so, whether it's in Germany in the area, or we think about Saurav, you in Singapore, we do a lot of work in India, or whether it's in Australia, there are unique differences to each of those. But of course, people are people, and they need to be doing what they're best at, right? And so.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
excited to hear that. We're excited to hear your stories that you bring to us. So thanks for doing that. Sarv, anything else as we wrap this up?
I just been thinking about that. A lot of CEOs ask this, and I just want to check with you. What would you tell CEOs listening in, of your experience of using StrengthsFinder, and how it has helped you manage people effectively?
Personally, it's good. First of all, I know my strength. When I read the report, I said, okay, this is resonate in my mind. That, okay, this is exactly what I have, right? But one thing personally that I learned to have my people get the assessment of the strengths finders is that you get to understand much better the people whom you work with. And this is also very, very important because you cannot work alone. Even though I have these strengths, I cannot figure out my strategy myself. You have to bring the whole truth with you, right? So personally, I think this is also very, very helpful to getting to know all my direct report and getting to think how do I want to make my team working together, and also making you also think how do you put the people that like the right people in the right job in the future, right? You know these people profile. If you think about before you want to put these people in this job, you might change your mind. You might say, okay, because this is not what this person have the strengths. So you will discuss with them differently, and they themselves also know themselves differently, so that it's very helpful in terms of discussing what is the next career step for them also. So personally, this is how I see.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing that. And like I said, Suwannee, really appreciate you taking time off your busy schedule. You've been flying all over the world over the last few weeks. So really thank you taking this time out to speak to us and share your story with us. And I'm hoping this will inspire many leaders out there to really invest in their people, in their development by focusing on who they are and focusing on their strengths and the strengths of their people. Thank you so much for that. Jim, over to you to bring this home.
You bet, and thanks from me as well. I appreciate you coming on and being a part of our Strength Spotlight series as well. We want to remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. You can send us your questions or comments. Just email those to us, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as a bunch of other ones we have available for you. They're all available on our coaches blog. Just go to coaching.gallup.com. We want to remind you also that we now have StrengthsFinder apps for both Android and iOS. If you just search StrengthsFinder in either one of the stores, those are available for free. If you have trouble remembering your top 5, it's the best way to carry it with you on your phone. You can always log in and get those right there on your phone as well. Gallup now has an entire schedule of all our on-site training opportunities that we have globally. If you go to the gallupstrengthcenter.com, search for, you go down there, there's a directory for that as well. Everything we have available around the world is there as well. We want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to the next Strength Spotlight. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.